What's up, everybody? It's time served. Welcome back to the channel that scans the docket so you don't have to. I'm your boy Phil, and do we have a case today in Judge Brian Nicholas's friend of the courtroom. We have a dad that has the gall to put his child not only as the wallpaper, but through the entire hearing. And it kind of backfires because the baby is calling out for mom, and the lawyer for mom calls it out. Dad and lawyer are going at it, and again, poor Judge Nicholas is caught in the middle. This has a little bit of everything in this child custody, and I hope you're going to enjoy it. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe, set your notifications to all, so you never miss the daily docket from this channel. Let's roll.
Of what the arguments are. Does anyone have any questions regarding that?
No, Your Honor.
And what is the current age, name and age of your guys' child?
She's 1, Your Honor.
15
Okay.
months. 15 months.
All right. All
Almost
right. And I
15
want to
months.
thank I want to thank everybody for appearing via Zoom today. As always, realize this is a legal proceeding, just as if everybody was present in the courtroom. And Ms. Bias or Mr. Black, any questions for myself or counsel regarding that this is in fact a legal proceeding today?
No, Your Honor. And if I may say something very quickly, Your Honor, I've got a statement and everything else. So however you want to go, I have no attorney this time. So,
Right.
however you want to do it, because I do have.
You get to respond once counsel's done with defendant's argument. It's their motion. They go first, and then you get to read your statement thereafter. Okay.
All right. And Your Honor, may I ask one last question? Did you get a copy of the AAU filing that I did file on July 10th, I believe it was?
And what filing? What did you refer to it as?
It was, I'm sorry, Your Honor, it was everything that Ms. Bass.
The complaint?
Yeah.
You filed a complaint on July 10th?
Yes, and from what I understood, the hearing was originally supposed to be the 18th of September, but then Ms. Bias, as attorney, had done the ex parte to get the hearing moved up. I just wanted to make sure that you did get a copy of the initial filing that I did that was supposed to be heard on September 18th.
Okay, so you filed a motion as well, but counsel filed one that got scheduled earlier. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me look. All right, so counsel filed hers on July 14th. Let's see here. It looks like you had a filing on July 10th.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me just look at this.
And I apologize if I made any mistakes, Your Honor. I did it all on my own.
You're fine. Nope, your filing is just fine. It looks good. All right. So it looks like it's relative. Well, I won't get into that. And counsel, do you have a copy of the motion, his initial motion
Your Honor, my
as
client,
well?
yes, no. My client was served with all of that documentation apparently Thursday or Friday last week. My understanding is the motion mirrors his complaint. I do not have an issue. He asks for very similar to what his prior order was. So I don't think these parties are that far apart, except Mr. Stephen Black outrageously has now kept this child from the mother, but I will argue all of that. And I mean, the fact he has the child in prison is just outrageous.
Okay,
outrageous.
And Your Honor,
guys, stop before you respond. So guys, listen. So this is family court. If he's truly without childcare, but sir, in the future, you need to work really hard to get childcare for a legal proceeding. Obviously, your child's young, so won't absorb a lot. But obviously, if your child's a little older, you don't want children sensing or hearing a debate between parents. Your child's young enough that won't know, but clearly a child's sensitive to the tone in which we speak. How everybody is acting, which is why I began in saying, regardless of what your argument is, everybody has to be respectful and kind here. But in the future, sir, you have to try real hard to get someone to watch your child during a hearing. Okay.
Yeah, and not just that, as you can see, the child's trying to reach out to mother. The child's never been away from mother. He kept the child in return after parenting time. And this little child is trying to get to her mom through the video.
Well, let's get into the motion because we've all read it. And ma'am, you're welcome to talk to your child on the camera and wave and say
Okay.
hi if you want. It's
Thank
family
you,
court. Don't
Judge.
feel bad
Thank you.
if you
Thank
want to
you
say
so
hi
much.
to your hi and wave or whatever. You're welcome to do that. I mean,
It's
this is,
so great.
guys, it makes no sense that in family court, if your child's online, you can't wave and say hi. And
No, of course
you're
not.
welcome to do all of that. You're welcome to do all of that
Mama.
since your child is here.
Hi.
But again, guys, we have to be really nice and really calm, because even though your child's not old enough to maybe understand verbally, will sense tension or hostility or raised voices. So guys, I'm going to count on you guys to be very diligent about not being respectful here. But I've read through the motion. The request is fairly similar, but I'm going to let counsel make her motion, and then I'll ask some questions thereafter.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor,
This is plaintiff's motion for defendant's motion for temporary custody and parenting time. Just so
Your Honor, we asked the court to enter an order in accordance with the prior case these parties had, the 2023-2106. That was actually a motion heard before Your Honor. In that order, the father has the first 3 weekends of parenting time each month, from Friday 2 p.m. to Sunday at 4 p.m. He has to provide the driving for one of the weekends, at least halfway. The order is there, it's self-explanatory. Mom's waiting on that case for a final order to get put in place. She's waiting and waiting and waiting to get the judgment. All of a sudden, then she finds out husband's attorney's withdrawing. He's not a husband. Father informs her the case was dismissed and he's not returning the child after the parenting time. So the child has been now for 2 full weeks, never away from her mother more than a few days in her life. Now he hasn't returned the child since his parenting time began on July 7th, telling her there's no order in place anymore. The case was dismissed. I'm not returning her. So we're asking for an immediate return of the child. We're asking to either adopt an order identical to the Exhibit A. However, Mr. Black wants to add a Thursday. If he'd like to add Thursday to this weekend, then we're asking the court to make it every other weekend. And if he is going to be doing the Thursdays, he'll have to provide 100% of the driving to retrieve the child, because mom works on Thursdays. That's why the parenting time was set up for Friday and Sunday, because she can then help with the driving. Mr. Black, on information and belief, has no driver's license because his child support arrearage on another child is in excess of $10,000 and his license has been revoked, and he hasn't taken steps to get his license back for quite some time. Well, that's not mom's fault that he doesn't have a license, but she is still happy to participate in the driving, but it would have to then be on the Friday and the Sunday. Again, if he wants Thursday, no objection. He has to retrieve the child on those Thursdays, and then she would share the driving and could pick up the child on the Sundays. But we would then ask that it be every other weekend instead of every weekend. He's asking for a phone call every day between 10 and 12. No problem with that, Judge, except he's asking for 15 minutes. We would need the order to expressly say, or when the child ends it. She's 1. Her attention span's not going to be 15 minutes on one phone call. So we would want the order to say 15 minutes or whenever ended by the child. We also need app close for these parties, Your Honor. There are times when my client's phone is exploded with text messages. So we'd ask the court to please order that app close be involved. Mom does already inform dad of medical appointments. That's one of the things in his complaint. He wants to be informed of medical appointments. We have no objection to that being in order, that she's to inform him when appointments are scheduled. We certainly have no problem if he wants to go to Ohio for the appointments. This child has lived in Ohio with mother since March until he absconded with the child on July 7th. And he wants to attend those appointments. There's no objection whatsoever, Your Honor. Happy for him to do so. But again, he's got to get there to the appointments. We would ask for another referral, please, to the friend of the court custody department for facilitation and investigation. And we ask the court to, again, immediately return the child and enter an order in accordance with this Exhibit A, or amend it per dad's request to add the Thursdays and then make it every other weekend. But then he has to retrieve the child on those Thursdays.
All right.
It's
And so
outrageous,
before
Your
your
Honor, that he
response,
not return the child.
okay. And so just before the response, I think a little case history is helpful here. So on June 30th, 2023, an order of dismissal was entered on case number 2023-2106 DP for failure to take action. So you can call it no progress or failure to enter a judgment. And then, sir, approximately 10 days later, on July 10th, you filed the current case, and you were the plaintiff on both cases. Court further notes that the parties were before this referee on May 8th, 2023. On the previous case, again, 23-2106 DP, and a temporary custody and parenting time order was entered. I don't believe anyone objected to that order. Am I correct? And it became a final order 21 days thereafter?
That is correct, Your Honor. It became a final order,
Okay.
and the plaintiff was represented by counsel at that time.
Correct. And I will indicate counsel withdrew and left it to plaintiff to bring the case to fruition. That didn't happen. This has now been the new case filed pro per. All right. So Mr. Black, this is your opportunity. So you guys had an order just 2 months from me. What happened, and why have you not returned your child to the care of mom?
Yes, Your Honor. Okay. As you reread the notes from previously, if you remember part of my statement, she had completely alienated me from River from approximately, I believe, April, whenever she came and took her away from me and absconding with her in April through the time that we had the hearing in front of you on May 8th, sir. So because of that, and during that time, I asked her numerous times to let me talk to her, speak with her, and so on. She did nothing of the sort. Complete 100% parental alienation, Your Honor. Because of that past action, because of those past actions, when I got the letter in the mail saying the case was dismissed and I have no attorney, can't afford another attorney right now, because I got that letter, I called the circuit of court. I called the Sterling Heights Police Department. Everybody told me that if the case was administratively dismissed, that any and all things that were ordered by you because of that dismissal are no longer valid and are voided. So from my understanding, because there was no, because the order was
dismissed. But that's okay. So so technically and legally that's true. But when you refile, you're back before me on the same issue. So clearly you're back before the guy that you were before in May. I entered an order. You didn't object in 21 days, which was your right, which means you accept that findings, you let it become an order, you didn't object, you didn't go in front of the judge. So now you're back in front of me having withheld your child for a couple of weeks. So am I supposed to be impressed by that? Because technically you let your case get dismissed and you refiled it. And why would I make a different decision? Why would I make a different decision from 2 months ago that you didn't object to?
Your Honor, if I may explain, sir, because there was some confusion. When you entered the order, I did not know there was supposed to be another paper file, I believe, called a default judgment, which I learned of after the fact, after it was too late. I did not realize there was supposed to be something called a default judgment filed. That's on me. I take full ownership, Your Honor. The reason why I kept her, Your Honor, is because of fear of Ms. Bias's complete alienation of her again, until the time we would be able to get back in front of you.
So let's go over a little history here, just to clarify. When you say alienation, correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Bias's family, I'm recalling some of this, is in Ohio, correct?
Yes, sir.
So when you broke up, her choice was to find another residence, secure another residence, or find a place where she could reside with the assistance of family. So when you say alienating, you guys didn't have a case like you do now. So you're making the same argument basically of what you're doing. So you're unhappy that in that split up back in April, she had nowhere to go. She decided whether you felt you wanted to keep the relationship together or not. You guys broke up. She had no friends or family to move into with Metro Detroit. So she went back to Ohio to where her family was, which she had not the financial ability to secure another apartment and move close by. Would that have made things great if that was the case? Yeah, because you guys would have been close together and it would have opened the doors to a lot of possibilities with parenting time. We probably talked about this before. Logistically, when you're in Ohio, she's in Ohio and you're here, and she's there for the reason that she didn't have she needed financial support from her family, that distance creates only so many options. Your child's young, but at some point your child will be in kindergarten. That means in one place or the other. But there's reasons why. And is there any kind of, whoops, that's a different case. So, ma'am, do you want to respond at all? So what happened when the case got dismissed? What was the dialogue with Ms. Bias at that time? I'm not returning our child, or what was the dialogue you had?
What did happen,
Your Honor? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Weren't you asking that question of myself or the defendant?
Yeah, I mean, guys, I'm fairly informed.
What happened is she had no idea.
I was talking to Ms. Bias, so Mr. Black, please.
Sorry,
I'm not upset. That's fine.
And we're not
go
either.
Ahead.
She had no idea it had been dismissed. It was dismissed June 30th. So she still sent the child for the parenting time on July 7th. So why would he think that she's not going to? She still sent the child July 7th. And when it was time to return, he said, the case was dismissed and I'm not returning the child. If that was the case, then he has no rights, Your Honor, none whatsoever, because I think the prior case gave him the order of filiation. I wasn't on that case, so I don't know for sure. I will make sure that gets cleaned up for my client and gets perfected. At this point, I don't even think he's on the birth certificate.
So correct me if I'm wrong, did you guys resolve paternity? So the last case was, and this is kind of a legal thing, it was filed as a paternity case. Now that it's filed as a custody, would take for granted that you guys have resolved paternity and nobody is debating paternity. Is that correct?
I don't think they ever did an order of filiation, Your Honor, and I could be mistaken. If they did, it's been set aside.
Okay. So have you guys, just a second.
Yes,
not yet, because I'm asking a question.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you guys signed an affidavit of parentage, or have any document now saying you're the father?
There was an affidavit of parentage signed. It was my client's understanding, and she sent it to Mr. Drosis. Okay. However, another affidavit is out there floating around. I don't know the status of it. Mr. Black can answer that question because he then sent my client another blank affidavit to re-sign. So we don't know why.
So guys, I'm just going to say at some point you need to get that affidavit effectuated and filed.
Yes, sir.
Because otherwise, guys, I want Mr. Black, who's now self-represented, and Ms. Bias, and you have counsel, can explain this. If there is no establishment of paternity, you need to do that when you file a custody case. Otherwise, it was called a paternity case because it means you were either disputing or had an issue with paternity. There's not really a big problem here as long as you guys sign that affidavit and it gets filed, which means you're not disputing paternity. So to dot the I's and cross the T's, you guys have to sign that. However, Mr. Black, I'm going to make a point, and guys, I'm making some legal points, which in the big frame of things are probably not overall bearing on this matter. But so just so you know, Mr. Black, when you sign that affidavit of parentage, both of you, and you read it, it says if there's not a case, the child's default with mom. So Ms. Hansen's point is, if you read through that affidavit, once this case got dismissed, there shouldn't have been a retention of the child. Now, unfortunately, is this a dynamic that this court has seen in my 25 years of being a divorce attorney and then with the court? I see it all the time. The point I'm making it is, clearly, you are technically correct, Mr. Black, but clearly you're in front of the guy that did an order, and which holding your child for 2 or 3 weeks is not impressive to the court, is the point I'm making. So I'm saying you guys need to stop with this tug of war back and forth, because that's not really a noble thing to say, well, the case is dismissed. And I talk to people and technically they're right. There's no orders. So I'm going to hold my child until we get an order again.
Your Honor,
it doesn't impress me. Am I going to jump up and down, listen, and wave my hands? No, we're here. But sir, clearly you realize mom I'm not going to do much. Why should I do different than the order before for 3 weekends? Why do you want to add Thursdays on there? What has changed since May 8th when you guys didn't object to that order and you let it become an order? So the facts haven't changed in 2 months. Why should I do a different decision than on May 8th?
Yes, Your Honor. If I may comment to a couple things.
Yep.
The reason why I kept her was because of the fear of her alienation completely. The other, it's almost her nap time, Your Honor. That's why she's a little fussy too.
I'm fine. She's 18 months, guys. I get it. Don't worry. It's fine.
So anyway, where was it? Okay, so regarding the reason why I'm asking for certain things is even after your temporary order, again, I take ownership for not filing the default judgment 100%, Your Honor, but this time I know to do that. But she did not, I'd ask to talk to her. I'd ask for pictures. I'd ask for videos. Very, very, very minimal updates as far as being able to know what's going on with her through the week before I saw her. Very vengeful, very spiteful in that format. So because of that, I was terrified once again, literally terrified, that if I gave her back, and here's the thing, Your Honor, if she would have given me phone calls, updates on a regular basis, and I had a prejudice to go off of to say, okay, I trust you, even though there's no order right now is dismissed, that you'll let me, still see her on the weekend.
So let me ask this: and I got your arguments here. So, and I'm not going to keep belaboring it because we're back here, and
not all.
But obviously, she's got to go back. So let me ask this: what did you want, Miss? What were your expectations in between your 3 weekends a month? What did you expect from Miss Bias? So you talk about this behavior. What do you expect her at? I'm just wondering, as a basic, what are you expecting when you're not exercising your parenting time for Miss Bias? What are you expecting?
Yes, Your Honor. Very simply, it's all about communication. I've never said to her I want full custody. I've never said to her you can't talk to her. Even during these 3 weeks, Your Honor, I've told her numerous times through texting she can call. She can call and speak to Caleb during my lunch hour because I work from home. By the way, I'm directly supervising over her. She's done some developmental improvements, which I'd like to go over with her.
Your Honor,
so guys,
stop.
Stop.
I offered to do an interim order the very first day. The very first day that he said he wouldn't return the child, I offered to do an interim order. She asked him, and he said no. He is feeding you a line.
No, I'm
okay,
not,
that's fine. That's it.
No,
so
I'm not, Your Honor.
Stop. Everybody stop. When I talk, everybody stops.
Yes, Your Honor. And
so everybody's passionate, wants to get their point across, but guys, when I talk, everybody's got to stop talking. So guys, just as an aside, Mr. Black, your attention span on a phone of an 18-month-old, not 18-year-old, is going to be a hot second. It's not even going to be a minute, probably. And that's just proven by developmental experts, guys. I've been a divorce attorney 25 years. I've been with the court part of that time. I was a private attorney before I came to the court. So I've been on both sides of the court. Listen, things should have happened that didn't. They haven't. Now, going forward, I expect everyone to get back on, back with the ball game and not use self-help to try to effectuate what they think is fair or not. The law doesn't always approach it. So, Ms. Bias, you've heard Mr. Black saying you don't communicate, you don't let him talk to your daughter on the phone, you're not giving pictures or anything. What is your side of it? Do you feel he has over expectations, or what's your view of the dynamic between the two of you? He's made his position. What's your response?
Well, my view, let me try to explain the best as I can. So what I was doing when we had the previous order before is I wasn't sending him updates, throughout the week per se, but on that Friday, I would try and say like, hey, she walked. I sent him a video of her walking. I think it was 1 or 2 videos. I would say, hey, she does this, she does that, she eats that. I'm just trying to maintain, as minimal communication throughout the week because it is my weekend, or, it is my week. So I think for me, it's also just the fact that I work and I go to school. So it's very hard for me to. So
let me ask this. How often is Mr. Black contacting you and wanting updates or whatnot? How many times a week or a day?
Wait a second, Your Honor, he's asking for 2 per week in his complaint from 10 to 12, and she agrees to do that. We'll put that in.
Okay, but I'm just trying to find out the dynamic here. If I can give clarification of what is realistic expectations either party should have in each other and what is not realistic. Because here's the thing, guys, you're not together. The court does not expect people that no longer in a relationship and may not have fond feelings towards each other, or maybe ambivalent. You don't have to have hostile feelings, but no one wants to talk to their ex every day of the week. So I'm trying to figure out what are the expectations Mr. Black has, and Ms. Bias, what her expectations are, and what has been expected in the past, so we can set some dynamics of what the court thinks is appropriate and not. Because a lot of times what parties think are fair does not necessarily match up with custody and parenting time law or the expectations of the court. So I'm going to cut to the chase. The point I'm making is, Mr. Black, you can't expect her to chit chat with you on a daily basis or several times a week because she doesn't want to. You guys aren't together. So you have a young child, which makes people want to have more contact and talk more. But at some level, you guys are not expected or required to have endless conversations with each other. And if someone every day is saying once a day, how's our child? How's our child? That isn't required by the law for her to respond. However, I'll say on the flip side, if it's once a day, it's not hard to respond once a day and say, she's fine, healthy, doing great. You don't have to be FaceTiming every day. She doesn't have to give you a long diatribe. You don't have to say, where are you today? What are you doing today? She doesn't have to report to you what she's doing on a daily basis or give you her agenda, and vice versa. Mr. Black on his weekends doesn't have to let you know what he's doing with your daughter. The court defaults that you are two loving parents who love your daughter. And she's a beautiful child, and she appears to be a very happy child. All her behavior in the short time I've seen her seems like she's a happy, lovely child, and that she has a warm relationship, I expect, with both of you. However, so Mr. Black, you are expecting, you'd like her to talk to you twice a week.
Yes, Your Honor. And I just want to comment on a couple other minor things, if I may, Your Honor, very quickly.
Okay.
The communication,
Right.
I'm not asking for anything, harassing as far as amount of times. I care about my daughter. I love her with all my heart, Your Honor. All I want to know is that she's doing okay. And like you said, once a day, just in a text, say, hey, she's doing great.
Okay. Well, once a day, it's too much.
All right. Or a couple times a week, or, and whether that be, through the texting is great, but I would like to have some phone contact with her, whatever you would deem appropriate, Your Honor, whatever the court would find appropriate. I would like to.
Well, guys, I want to say, just so you know, I want to say this. I'm a referee, not the judge. You always have you don't have to agree with me all the time. You can object and have a de novo before the judge to make sure. But the point I'm making is about the previous order. If you didn't object to it in 21 days, which is your right, and went before the judge and said, hey, I don't like the order the referee entered, I want to change it. You guys didn't do that. So the point I'm making is to do something different from 2 months ago is probably not realistic. Why do you want to add Thursday onto there when your weekends have been Friday to Sunday, right? Prior?
Yes, Your Honor. Simply just because I'd like to have more time with her. To be very honest with you, because I like to have more time with her. She's thriving with me, Your Honor. She's transitioned. Wait, may I speak, Your Honor? May I speak, Your Honor? She's transitioned from a bottle to a sippy cup. She's saying 4 new words in the last 2 to 3 weeks with me. Cup, berry,
okay.
Sorry.
Does that infer you don't think she'd do the same thing with mom?
Well, my point is, as Mom had said, she works a lot of the time. I work from home. I work full time, yes, but I work from home. She plays in the living room. As you hear, she's playing. I'm fully supervising over her during my work. I don't have to go anywhere. So for her to be direct under my care versus Miss Bias leaving her with, her parents or whoever else while she works.
My parents.
While she works, to me, that's fine. But, in my opinion, why not let me have one more day with her when I am home working, when I can supervise?
What do you do for work?
Yes, Your Honor. I work in wholesale real estate. All I do is basically talk on the phone to real estate agents, work out negotiation transactions. Basically, you ever see those ads like we buy ugly houses or, stuff like that. So,
because I'm going to say with a child that young, she's all over the place. You can't really work. Actually, as shown by this hearing, it's not very easy. I mean, she takes a couple naps, but otherwise not the easiest thing to do to work with an 18-year-old child running around. So let me ask this, and this isn't an overall bearing. It's not relevant to parenting time, just so you know, these are But do you currently lack a driver's license because of large child support arrearages on another case?
Yes, Your Honor, that is true and correct, which I'm working, I'm making payments every month, paying as much as I can into it. I believe once it gets down, and I don't know for sure because I don't want to lie to the court, of course, but I believe once it gets down to, I want to say 10,000 or under.
And are those adult children, or what are the ages of that child or children on the other case?
That child is now 14.
And where does that child reside?
Maryland.
Okay, so that child's not in the near vicinity. And do you exercise parenting time with your 14-year-old?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Why
That's
not?
a completely different.
Why not?
That's a completely different situation with an ex. And it's very, very complicated. But
okay, well, but you do realize you have now 2 exes of which you're having parenting time disputes. And again, this is going to sound a little critical, but I'm not saying this as a slam, and I don't know what the dynamics of that case are, but now I have 2 different cases with disputes between mothers and arguments that they're keeping you from your children. And there's some kind of dynamic of, listen, why that is.
My other ex is not keeping me from him. It's just due to traveling. She's always been the one primary raising him because of Maryland.
I know, but how often do you see him or talk to him?
I haven't in a while because she is always changing phone numbers, not because of me, but because she has different situations with other relationships.
Well, a phone though, like a phone is easy to keep contact. FaceTime, and 14-year-olds are very adept at social media. But
He
I'm
also
just
has
saying,
autism, and I do.
But I just want to say that I'm going to make a point. You got to be careful with your criticism of the other parent, because criticism goes both ways.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I can make all these points, and those could be pluses, minuses, or ambivalent. But the point I'm making is you got to be careful about how critical you are of the other party, because we can all start going down lists, and I can say, why haven't you seen your 14-year-old for a long time? Why did you not have a driver's license for not paying child support? Those aren't necessarily positives. So the point I'm making is you have to be, if you're feeling that parents created obstacles, you got to also step from the position of the other parent, because now you're potentially doing it to the other parent. And I know you say she did it to you too. And guys, at some point, you guys got to get with the picture, because if either or both of you keep coming in front of me and you're not honoring the orders, aren't doing things that are overly noble or reasonable, then the tables are going to turn and things aren't going to go well. So I expect your daughter to go. So so guys, you had a order before, because she moved to Ohio, that she would provide the transportation 2 weekends a month and meet halfway the third. How were you guys doing the third weekend? Were you, I hate to say it, but were you driving on a no license? Who was doing
No, Your Honor.
midway?
No, Your Honor, not at all.
Exchanges?
Not at all.
Who was helping you?
I would either use Uber, or I'd have a friend drive me up halfway to where she wanted to meet at, which worked out fine. No problem with the location there at all. So always had a car seat with me for her, and so on. So she was always traveling in a safe manner. But no, I did not drive. It was either Uber or a friend.
Okay, so let me ask this. So I'm going to ask this to Ms. Pius, you can confer with your attorney. So I know right now you guys are kind of in a tit for tat, and you're not happy he's kept your daughter from you, and it's not right that he did it. What is your response to him saying, hey, I work from home, you're working, can we do Thursday to Sunday, 3 weekends a month instead of 2?
Her response, Your Honor, is if he wants the Thursdays, then move it to alternating weekends so that she can actually have some weekends too.
Okay.
She lives with her parents. They're kind and loving. They spend a lot of time with the child. She's close to work, so she can do her scattered shifts. She purposely has her schedule worked out to do the Friday and the Sunday driving. If he really wants, you can see how busy the child is, Your Honor. There's no way he runs a busy real estate business.
Yes, there is, ma'am. Yes, there is, Your Honor. And please don't lie, ma'am. You don't know what I do and how I do it, ma'am.
Okay, so what kind of income do you generate from it?
Yes, Your Honor. It does average anywhere between I'd say anywhere between 3,500 to I'd say somewhere between 6, maybe a little bit more. but because I'm on commission. So some months might be higher than others. And that was my next
Okay.
point, Your Honor. Because of my other expenses, rent, electricity bills, the attorney is asking me to pay for Ms. Bias's fees. I'm asking the court to reject that because even though I may make more than Ms. Bias, as the attorney pointed out, she lives with her parents. She has a lot less expenses than I do. Now, I'm not talking about River. I'm talking about just in general, Your Honor. So I feel that even though she may make less, she has more ability to pay the attorney.
Well, she's asking for attorney fees because you kept your child and wouldn't
Exactly.
return your child unless they filed
Exactly,
this
Your Honor.
motion.
And
Is
the
the
only reason why I
point.
did-
Because my,
The only reason why I did, Your Honor, was because of complete fear of our past actions regarding the.
I got it, guys. Guys, stop. I got it.
Okay.
I'm going to say this again. 2 wrongs don't make a right. If you feel you were wrong, but guys, there was dynamics there where she had nowhere to go other than find another residence and
Right.
return to her families, which you can define it as feeling, but you're saying when she did that, she cut off all communication and forced you to file a case. So I'm
and
not
that's not true.
faulting you on that. So on the flip side, you both have to work harder to be about recognizing some validity in each other's points. But guys, now that this has happened again, I expect it to not happen again. You guys need to, and now that counsel's involved, sir, she'll probably end up preparing the judgment
That's
as an
correct, Your
attorney
Honor.
rather than you, but I'll leave it up to Ms. Hanson to communicate with you
I'm sorry,
regarding
Your
that
Honor.
and realize if you don't,
Would you mind repeating that? I
Go ahead.
apologize. Would you mind
I
repeating
said,
that, sir?
Ms. Hanson now will make sure this case is brought to finality. So there won't be a problem with an attorney withdrawing, making you pro per and having you not know how to respond to no progress orders or no progress notices. Ms. Hanson will now make sure everything progresses, which means at the end, as a experienced divorce attorney, she will probably also prepare the judgment, even though Ms. Bias is the defendant rather than have you do it, because she's very adept at preparing those judgments and knowing all the boilerplate language and blah, 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 blah. Ms. Hanson's a respected attorney. She's not some person who's going to, try to trick you or anything. She has a long history with this court. I'm not into false flattery. I say that all the time, but if I didn't think that, I wouldn't say it. So, this fear that you don't have an attorney doesn't mean opposing counsel is going to try to trick you or pull a fast one. She just knows how to prepare judgments. She knows what goes in them. She knows the language, and you can communicate if you have questions. There's a lot of what we call boilerplate, which is standard provisions that have to be in there that are very wordy, but she knows how to do it.
And Your
All
Honor, may I ask for one more request in the relief? From what I understand, it's called relief. Because, as you know, in the calendar months and whatever you deem would be appropriate, Your Honor, in the calendar months, I believe there's a couple months where there's a 5th week in the month, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember what months they are.
Mhm.
But what I was going to ask, Your Honor, is whatever you deem necessary for the first 3 weeks of a regular month where there's just 4 weeks in the month, could we work out something when there's a month when there's 5 weekends in the month, so I can get that more time with her during those months that have 5 weeks?
How long is the drive? How long is the drive between your two residents?
From
About
Swanton,
an
Ohio.
hour and 45 minutes between her
Yes.
house to mine, from what I understand.
How
And then
many
also-
guys?
How long you were both talking? I didn't hear the time.
It's an hour and 45 minutes from Swanton, Ohio to Sterling Heights, Michigan.
Okay,
That's correct, Your Honor.
all right. So not horrible if you guys were to share it most of the time, but you have no car and.
Well, he has no license is the problem, Your Honor. So that
I got
that's where the issue
I got it. All right.
And then
So
also,
guys,
Your Honor,
I'm gonna
one
go
last
ahead.
thing. I'm sorry, Your Honor. One last thing I was going to ask the court to do is I'd like to get 2 weeks during the summer with her. Straight at least 2 weeks, whatever the court deems, whatever month is fine. I can work around it. June, July, August, whatever would work. But I would like to, I'm not saying, I've had it for a few weeks this summer, so I'm not asking you to add anything for this summer.
Well,
but-
okay. So you've already had her to 2 weeks this summer. Yeah, so
because,
summer's done. This year's done.
So I'm just asking for going forward for next year and so on.
Well, you'll talk to Ms. Hanson about that in the final resolution. This should be done by next summer. And you guys can put your parenting time schedule in there.
And then I got one more thing, Your Honor, regarding the affidavit of paternity. Let me clarify what happened.
Your Honor,
Everything was,
excuse me a moment.
Guys,
We don't need to
stop.
get into that.
I don't,
We're gonna get
guys,
it-
stop.
yes, there is, because
I
if
don't need, stop. Don't talk over me because I tell you to stop and you want to get your point across.
Sorry.
I don't
Sorry,
care what
Wanda.
happened. Here, let me cut to the chase, guys. I don't care. Make it happen. Sign it.
We'll
file
get
it.
it fixed, Judge. I don't know
Guys,
what the problem is.
I don't care what happened. The affidavit's set forth by the state. There's no way to modify it, change the language, sign it.
We
But
don't
you
know
need
what
to sign
happened.
it
It
because
will
this
get
is
fixed,
not,
Judge.
this is not filed at, stop it. This is not filed as a paternity case. This is filed now as a custody case, which means you've resolved paternity, which means if you have not yet put on file with the state an affidavit of parentage, you guys need to do that. Is Mr. Black on the birth certificate by any chance?
No, he
No,
isn't.
Your Honor.
That's part of
No,
the
Your Honor.
problem.
Okay,
And-
so guys,
what happened-
stop. Mr. Black, stop. I'm making a point. I don't need
Yes, sir.
interjection when I'm making a point.
Yes, sir.
The point I'm making is once you file the affidavit of parentage, you can file a request to the state of Michigan to amend the birth certificate to put you on it. They're not going to do that till you effectuate, sign, and enter your affidavit of parentage. But if you're not on the birth certificate, the point I'm making, I don't want any dialogue on this, is that once you effectuate your affidavit of parentage, file it, give them a little time because the state, like everywhere, is probably not, you take a little time to get everything in their system. Once they get it in there, you go online, there's a petition to amend the birth certificate, and you guys can do a request to amend the birth certificate to get on it. I'm not giving legal advice other than that, but that's why another reason you want to get this affidavit filed, because the court wants it, because paternity is not yet resolved until it's resolved. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Ms.
sir.
Hanson
Yes.
understands
Yes.
and she'll, so Mr. Black, just realize Ms. Hanson's not some nefarious person who's she's here to represent her client. You might not like what she's saying, but she also knows the law and she can make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So if she tries to get a hold of you, just realize she's not trying to call you or do malicious stuff. She's just here to represent her client. But she does know the law well and how these cases, and she knows what I'm saying. So she'll make sure that this stuff gets done. And the point I'm making, don't just ignore, not respond, because it's not meant to trick you or anything. Does that make sense?
Yes, Your Honor. And just to let you know what happened was this, the affidavit was filed. The state sent it back to me saying there was an error on the filing. I wasn't
Okay, so guess what? It gets us back to the same place. I don't care. Make it happen. I don't care. I'm not mad at you. It's not a big, guys, everybody thinks everybody's a whammy. There's a check. Oh, I'm checking off from Ms. Bias. Boom, 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 boom. There's a whammy. No, it doesn't. Guys, I don't really care how it didn't happen. Just make it happen. I don't care if it happened. It got sent back. Who cares? Make it happen.
Yes,
Does
Your
that
Honor.
make sense? In the
Get a
frame of the
copy
world,
letter
and
from him,
guys,
Judge.
and
That's fine,
it's
Your
an
Honor.
unrealistic expectation to think she's going to chit chat unless you guys, at some point, your relationship improves, which tends to hopefully happen after time and after a breakup. And maybe that's a dialogue you can have with her in the future. Right now, she doesn't want to have it. So we'll talk about what 2 days of the week do you want for phone calls or Enders, FaceTime, Skype?
I'm
What
sorry, Your
days
Honor.
you want to
Were
call?
you calling me, Your Honor? Or?
Yeah, I'm talking to you now. What days? Is there a day that's good?
That's what I was going to say. Whatever is, I'm willing to work with Miss Bias. If she says, "Hey, Tuesdays and Thursdays are good," or Wednesdays.
Okay,
and
because you
Fridays
asked for two. Okay, so stop. You asked for 2 times a week, and I'm just reading your motion. So, ma'am, what 2 times a week? What days are good, and what times for him to call under whatever you have? FaceTime, Skype, if he wants virtual with your daughter to wave like you are now and say hi on an iPad or whatever you got. What times?
I don't work Wednesdays, so I can do 10 a.m. on Wednesdays. And we
Okay,
can
Wednesday
do,
at 10.
let's say Monday at 10 a.m.
Mondays and Wednesdays at 10.
Yes.
And how about, can he call on his weekends that he doesn't have once on the weekend when he doesn't see her?
Yes.
What day? Saturday or Sunday when he doesn't have her?
Let's say Saturday
At what time?
we can
Is the
keep
10
to
good
10
for
a.m.
every day?
Yep. Yeah.
So
10
Mondays,
10 a.m.
Wednesdays, and the Saturdays when not exercises, weekends at 10 a.m. for telephone and or virtual, whatever. And guys, when I say virtually, you don't have phones that match with FaceTime. You can use something else if you have an iPad. Yeah. And is that okay for you, Mr. Black? Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturday.
Yeah. The only thing I was going to ask it. The only thing I was going to ask is, hey, River.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, everything's fine, Your Honor. She's just playing with her toys. Wednesdays and Mondays are fine, but here's my other question, Your Honor. If for example, can I get 2 options on those days? Like I've given her since I've had her, can I also get, for example, she wants me to do Wednesday, 10 a.m. in the morning. That's fine. But could I do like Monday at, bedtime with her? Is there a way that,
Well, ask her. So you want one day in the morning and one day at night. So you want
Yes.
Mondays
Yes.
at what, ma'am? I don't think it's crazy request. So ma'am, is there an evening time on Mondays and then 10 a.m. on Wednesdays?
No, it would
When you
need to
call, when does
switch.
she go?
It would need to switch, Your Honor. It would need to then be the morning on Monday, and she could do the
Okay.
evening on
Okay.